very much. My first American audience. So,
if anyone has any questions or reactions to tonight's film, we'd love to hear from you.
yeah, Kleenexes.
Oh, sure.
Should I just?
No, take it.
I'll come back to you.
Oh, well, I can just take
Great.
this. All right. This story is obviously very personal for you.
Mm-hmm.
How hard is it to work through the creative process of writing it, and especially the collaborative process? I mean, did the story change at all with the people you work with on this story, or maybe with the actors? I mean, was it sort of weird having them suggest ideas for your story, or was it just, you know, your vision from start to finish?
Yeah, the vision evolved because you don't have a clear vision when you start. You have ideas, vague, and it's a evolving process. And the film, to make a film, is to adapt to everything, to make concession every day, every minute, and yet you've got to keep this vision that grows in you. And it's, in this particular case, it's not a story that I made it up. I invented it because I wasn't born, obviously, at that time. And I tried to imagine, I guess maybe, and I made a few films about my parents, different. But I think that the first film I made about my parents was Entre Nous, and I think I made it because I wanted to see them together again. When they separated, they never saw each other again, ever. They didn't live in the same city, so we would go, my sister and I, from one city to the other. And I think that's the reason why, I'm not a psychoanalyst like I'm in public, but I think that deep down it was probably one of the reasons. And then when you work on personal stuff, on personal emotions, memories, feelings, first of all, it's very private. When you write, sometimes you discover things yourself, and you go, and you can shiver. It's very strong, but then you have to share with the actors, with the crew. So it's a process where I work with an art director in France, and nobody works with an art director in France, only me. It's a job that doesn't exist in France. I don't know why. There's a guy who does the sets, and the guy who does the hair, and the guy who does the costumes, but the guy or the woman who supervises this doesn't exist. And I work with someone, I've been working with him for a long time. He is a key for me, because together, he works, he takes little clips of things, paintings, he draws, and we sort of write what we call our Bible. I shouldn't say that here, but this Bible, this sort of intentions, we share with everybody, we give to every department, and that's what we saw. And then it evolves again, because when the actors come in, they take it. They take it. That's it. It's not mine. This is not my father. This is Benoît Magimel in a role that he lived through. And it goes away from you. So it's an experience which is fascinating, very interesting to have, to process. And through the years, I learned to open up even more to suggestions or change. All of a sudden, you wanted something in the sun, it rains, and then you adapt. The set was not at all what you expected. You adapt, and to the point where you say, no, this is not. That's that fine line between concession and the vision. Go closer.
Well, I'd like to thank you for being here. And you made a really beautiful film, very moving. My question is about the context of World War II. I think it's probably not an obvious choice for setting a story, because with each generation since World War II, I mean, I've lived in France, and I've talked with young French people, and they just don't really know a whole lot about World War II. But I mean, you created this magnificent story within the context of the aftermath of World War II, and I'm just wondering what steered you, what took you in that direction?
Well, my parents, during the war, were hidden, and they tried to hide through the whole war. And my childhood was during all my childhood, my fairy tales at night, the stories that they were always how my parents escaped from the Germans, how they were heroes, and they didn't present themselves as heroes, but in my imagination they were like survivors. They didn't go to they were arrested in a camp in France by the French police, and fortunately my father had been in the Foreign Legion, and the chief of the camp recognized him, was in the Foreign Legion, and he said, "Who are you? You Kurys? What are you doing here?" And he said, I'm Jewish and I'm going to go to Germany. And he said, "You don't. You're a French soldier." He was a French soldier in the French army. He was in the army. So he took him out, and my father probably had noticed a beautiful woman, young girl, she was 20. And he said to the guy, "Can I take my fiancée with me?" That's the story I tell. Yes. And that's the truth of all. That's the story. And this haunted me. The fact that love came after, but it was really a marriage. He saved her life. So she was, she owed him something. She stayed with him for 10 years. And then when they separated, that was it. That was the end of it. And I was born on these premises, and it's really later in life. I made 4 films about my parents. Oh, not about my parents. One about my childhood, which was Peppermint Soda, the first one. One which was Entre Nous, about my parents and the camp and all that, and the way they separated. One which was about the very moment when they separated in the summer of '54. And this is the last one. I think it's the last leg of a journey. The 4 films are related. All the characters are called Michel and Lena, and there are 2 sisters every time. So I don't know if I answered the question.
Thank you very much.
But the war, yeah, you're right. The war, it's haunting,
Yes.
especially in France.
Yes.
What can I say? What do you want to know? Yes.
How factual was Sasha and Jean? I mean, did they work for an organization? Was it a Jewish organization for Palestine at that point, or no? And what? And you said that a street was named after Jean.
Yeah, that's not true. That's invented.
Oh,
but
bad.
I'm sorry. I have to be honest today. I mean, it's a movie. My uncle was in the Red Army. That's true. He came to France. He came to Lyon. That's true at that time, that year. But he was not a member of what they call the Avengers. After the war, for 3 years, they don't know how many. There are 2 or 3 books, very, very few, about that period and about these groups of people who just came out of the horror and decided they wanted to revenge. No trial. They didn't want anything. Just kill as many Germans as they could. They were young people, no sense of nothing because they went through hell. So I don't find any excuse to what they did. The fact is that some of them tried to poison the bread in the prison in Nuremberg to kill all the Nazis. Some others tried to poison the water in 4 German cities at the time. I read a book about it, and I thought it was fascinating, and it's a story that's not known. And it stopped because at the time Ben Gurion, who was about to be prime minister, chief, whatever, when Israel became independent, decided it was so bad as an image, and he was right, it was pretty horrible, that he said, "You've got to stop, everybody stops." And they did, they disappeared in nature, and they created Exodus instead, which was, as you know, the reason for the creation. In fact, it helped enormously because the publicity around the boat was so immense that finally they decided to create that state. So it's a true. What is true is that they existed, these groups, but my uncle was not a member of. But I made him a hero. Actually, my sister, when she saw the movie, said, "Why did you make a hero of him? He was not such a hero, and why did you make a father of him?" And I don't know the truth. Again, I made it up. It's possible. And I don't even want to know the truth. My sister offered to do a DNA test, and I said, no, what for? My father is my father. It just gave me the opportunity to make this film. Just playing with the question, you know. When you are influenced by when you look at yourself and I don't know why I needed to go back to the origins and in a way know where I come from. Parents don't talk very much. At that time, they didn't. And there are plenty of blank pages and spaces that I had to fill up that I didn't know. And it's fascinating to know to see how much they didn't talk. So I talked for them.
Do you in any way see, I'm just thinking about the blank pages. There is sort of this, at what level can you think about the film as a kind of allegory, in a sense, for the blank pages that is in some ways France after the war, and actually what happened in France after the war, and everybody, either everybody was Jewish and in hiding, or everybody was in the resistance, and we know that that's not true, right?
Of course.
So there is this blankness and this, again, sort of, and my perspective is an American, and kind of grew up in the age of Vietnam, and this kind of reflection and this anguished reflection about our the American relationship, and it is American. And looking at France, I still feel that there are blank pages for France.
They are, because France has a tradition of anti-Semitism. It's a long tradition. Although, yes, they say happy as a Jew in France. It's true. It's a lot. It was true for a certain time, but Dreyfus and even before that. It's something that is not said, that is not told, and yes, everybody after the war is a resistance. Yeah, and even today,
that's what I mean. It's not so much. I guess I'm not, kind of saying that France is still anti-Semitic, but it is that sort of. It is on the one. Well, I'm not saying that you might, but I guess it's this sort of sense. It's the paradox on the one hand of being so haunted by this past and so weighted by the past, and the sort of return to the past, and yet the blank pages remain. It's that. I guess it's that sort of.
Yeah, it's the blank. It's a historical, and it's also intimate.
Yeah.
My blank page. When you make a film like that, you try to connect with the others. You try to look in the mirror and to just turn the mirror to. Do you recognize something of of something? And that's the goal. That's the idea. And the blank pages in my life were linked to that history and linked to that specific story that I share with people. It's not like a therapy, or it's just it's just, although it helps personally, but it's a way of communicating that and the blankness also. But it's, as you said, it's a process. It evolves. For instance, the ending, the last line that I wrote at the very, very end of the editing. I knew I had to find something. I didn't know how to say what I was looking for, and it's in making the movie that I found out that what I wanted was just to see my parents as human beings. They existed, and this is a way for me to leave a mark about them. There's a French poet, Alfred de Vigny, who wrote a very nice sentence. I don't know if I can translate it. He said, if I write about my ancestors, they will descend from me. Very pretentious, but very true. you make people, you know, it's like a link. It's like.
I really liked the relationship between the sisters. It seemed ideal, and so I hope your relationship with your sister is that ideal. Is it?
It's better now. No.
I'm wondering, does she take the past as seriously as you do?
No. No.
So she just thinks it's strange that you make films?
No, it's funny, you know, since my first movie, which was called, again, Peppermint Soda, it was really our childhood, because she was a character, an important character in the first movie. I dedicated to her, also, I found this in the editing room, and I said to my sister, and it was just a joke, to my sister who still hasn't given back my orange sweater. And at the end of the movie, she said, I'm sorry for the orange sweater. And that's what it is. People, your family, they believe it's true now. When it exists on the screen, they take it for granted. I mean, it is the reality. It becomes real. And you say, no, this I made it up. And they don't believe it. This is strange. And I was asked a question yesterday, you know, do you feel guilty, or do you feel like there are things you can't say, or people are going to be offended or sad? And I answered, I think you, as an author, you have a duty to tell your truth. And no matter how hard it is, of course, you can't say horrible things. I mean, I wouldn't. There's nothing horrible in this that I say. I accuse my parents of my mother of having an affair with my uncle. Well, they're all gone, so they won't be angry at me. And I think actually they would be proud of me if they could see the movie. But the responsibility that you take is upon you. You've got to tell the truth, I think, in that type of film. Or at least to go deep enough so you reach out the public.
It seems like you admire all three characters.
All of them, and when I write, I am each one of them. You know, my background is acting, and it helps enormously when you want to write, to be able to act. Or I was not a great actress, but at least to know the right music, the right sound, and then it helps a lot. And so I am Jean, I am Lena, I am the young girl, I am everybody every time. Yeah, and I don't judge them. I love them. I try to understand.
Given that you are both the author of this story and the director of this story, because it is so personal, I'm wondering, did writing the story give you more satisfaction because it's more intimate than working with so many people to shoot the film?
Yeah, it's so different. I mean, when you're writing, you're by yourself in your little room, and there are moments of exhilaration where you find an idea, just a line or a scene or an ambience, an emotion. It's great. Sometimes it's difficult. You wonder if anybody is going to be interested, or if you're going to be able to raise the money for that picture. Right. It's another. But then, yet, when you arrive on the set, it's a battle. It's like you know. Fellini used to say it's a débarquement en Normandie. It's a how do you say débarquement? It's landing in Normandy. It's like organizing everything for day one, and so it's a fight. And so you have to be in a state of openness, and yet it's you know. But with time, I learn, and you know, I've made progress on that level. So both experiences are they're different. You have to adapt on the set. You have to adapt to the actor who hasn't slept, doesn't know his lines, you know, the weather, the dog, the little girl who doesn't want to go open the thing, all that, like any director would tell you. And then you remember, and the thing is to remember what you saw in your little room when you wrote the scene. What was the origin of the vision? And then you're in a completely different environment. You didn't expect the room to be like that. You didn't expect the actor to be like that. And then you go back to the essential of what you imagine. What is important? you know. And also, I'm often asked, how do you know where to put the camera? How do you decide where to put the camera when you arrive and say, Polanski, Roman Polanski used to say, I heard him in an interview say, well, when I scout for the decor, I see where the cinematographer goes and where the set designer goes, and I go with them. And he was funny, but it was true. You don't know. You adapt.
Yep.
You know, and the honesty is the key. If you pretend, everybody would know. And also another thing, the crews and the actors, they have a lot more experience than I do. I made only 12 films. They made hundreds. You know.
12 is a pretty good
Well,
number.
12 is a great number, but they, you know, I worked with Isabelle Huppert a lot. She made, I don't know, 150 movies. So I can't teach her anything. You know, she knows better than I do for her part. So you have to just respect that, I think. And sometimes it's good, and sometimes you adapt.
I just wanted to make a comment on the quality of your close-up and also the poetry, in a way. There's
The poetry of the close-up?
Yeah, I mean...
Not aware of it. No, the film was filmed in film, not in digital. But nowadays, after you filmed in film, they put it into digital. So, you know, very soon it will be over, I think, the film. And, you know, it's okay. We adapt also. But the close-up, no, you try to find out with the cinematographer, depending on the, you know, again, it's every day it changes. That's why this job is so fantastic, because it changes all the time. It's never the same, ever, ever, ever. Every film is different. Every day is different. And it's a great job.
Did you have those actors in mind when you decided to make the film?
No. The only actress I had in mind was Sylvie Testu, because I had made a film with her about Françoise Sagan just before that film. And she was incredible in Françoise Sagan, just an amazing actress, and she became a friend. And I really imagine her, me being her. So she's the only one I imagined. The others, no. I had thought about an actor who refused the role. And you know, as I say very often, you hire whoever is available, whoever is will fit. So you look at the list, you look at and then Benoît Magimel, I worked with him already on one film about Alfred de Musset and Georges Sand, which I made 10 years ago with Juliette Binoche, and I knew he was a great actor. I adore Benoît Magimel. He's the one who plays Michel, my father, and I mean I really love his passion.
So handsome too.
He's handsome too. He's very Robert Mitchum, whatever, Sean Penn, yeah. He's a wonderful actor. They all are, and I didn't think of them. No, Mélanie Thierry, I didn't know her at all. And then among all the actresses around 30 years old, blonde. My mother was blonde. I wanted a blonde. You know, you see a casting director. He gives you advice. You say no, yes. I met her. I thought she was fantastic. And she has a special quality, you know, the chemistry. It's magical between her skin, the light, and the camera. There's something that is really special about her, really. And she's a very good actor. She's not very nice on the set. She doesn't like to do that. You know, I shouldn't say that. She's always, oh, we're going to do it. And you don't know, I mean, you cannot tell. She's really difficult. You know? And the result is great. So, no, it's true. I went through a lot of...
frustration.
Oui, yeah. Sorry.
You didn't carry her storyline through to the end. You didn't carry her storyline through to the end of the movie, really, more for the father.
Of Lena, you mean?
Yeah, so... Oh, wait, well, that's what you're talking about, Lena. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
The mother role.
The mother role, Lena, yeah. I didn't carry it, well, because she's dead at the beginning.
Okay.
You know, we start with the...
I missed the beginning.
She's gone. You missed the beginning. That's why. You have to see it again. Sorry. Yeah.
I wanted to, because you asked, I hope this story is going to be personal, since it was personal for you, and I wanted to echo what Leslie said earlier, because I grew up in France, and in the south of France, and I remember, and for me as well as, so in the 70s, and for me as well as for my friends, so my grandparents, were involved in the war, and my father was born during the war, both my parents, and I remember, just like you said, they wouldn't talk about it. Grandparents and parents then had a lot of questions that weren't answered, and a lot of those silences, what you said about, as well as in the at the end of the movie, I think it's very, very, very palpable in France, for my generation, the generations of the people before, where there's lots of questions still, things that are not answered, and you feel like there's a lot of meaning that came from that war that is still not resolved,
No, because they never recover from the fact that they, in 2 months lost the war. 2 months or 6 months, I can't remember exactly. They just went back home. They never recovered that. They never understood that, the French. As if I don't consider myself as French. But my parents were not. They became French in 1947. And whether they were the French, the stunned country, oh my God, we're occupied, what are we going to do? And they carried on. Whether they participated really, or whether they had to escape if they could, or hide if they were lucky. It's, the one who, I had an uncle, another uncle on another side, who went to Auschwitz for 5 years, and he survived. And he never, ever said a word, ever. He couldn't. He did, to his wife, to his children. He lived a very long time. He passed away 5 years ago, I think. He never, ever said a word, ever. So even them didn't talk. But fortunately, there are books, and there are Primo Levi. There are people who I read a lot of books. It took me 2.5 years to write, because I wanted to write this one alone. I thought it was important. But it took me a lot of research, because I had forgotten. When I did Entre Nous, I did a lot of research about the war. And I learned a lot, because in school you don't learn. In France, they don't teach you the war. Not very much. A little more now, but at my time, nothing. 3 pages. So I learned a lot when I made Entre Nous. And this time I read again, relearned and read all because of the Avengers. I wanted to know why, how, what pushed them, and I read the horror. I read this Vasily Grossman book, the Livre Noir, which is, I don't know how long, 600 pages of horror, and I went through the whole book, and it makes you want to die. It's horrible. And I needed to, and fortunately there are books. There are a lot of books now. And it will, slowly open. But the thing is that this generation is going to die, it's going to end, and it's going to be finished. No witness, nobody who can say, yes, I went through that. So it's a sort of a duty to pass on and to carry on, so it never, ever, ever happens again, ever. Okay.
About that detail about the father, the relationship with
the relationship between
your father,
my father,
and your grandfather, apparently, and the difference, like, sorry, I have a hard time expressing. Yes, the relationship with your father in the movie, and his father that wanted to go to America, and the contrast, I think that is powerful. Like, and the detail when he says what happened in his childhood, apparently with the father being violent.
Well, I made that up. I'm sorry. I have to be truthful today, right?
Yes.
I made that up. My father was sent to Poland when he was 5 years old and didn't know really his mother and father. It's something that I was always obsessed by. Why didn't they go to America? You know, because the first time I arrived in America, it was in '72 or '3. I was an actress. I was touring in a play around here, everywhere. I may have come here. I felt so connected for some reason. I felt this is where I could have been born. I don't know why. I spoke English already. I don't know why. I learned English at school. I felt really, and it's an obsession. Why didn't, I guess they didn't have the money to take the boat, and during the war they couldn't leave, they couldn't enter. We know that. It was impossible. So, you know, it's a pure fantasy, and the idea that the violent father is also invented. Sorry.
Could you explain to me how your father was in the French Foreign Legion if he didn't become a French citizen until '47?
Yeah, because the Foreign Legion, as a definition, is for foreigners. It's the French army, and all the foreigners who can who want to join, they are allowed to change their names. He didn't change his name, but they're allowed to change their name. So if they come from, you know, they did something bad. And my father, comment dire, s'est enrôlé. Enlisted in '39 at the beginning of the war, in September '39, because he was in France for 10 years before, still as a foreigner, and he enlisted. It didn't give him the nationality at all. It made of him a French soldier. He fought in the army in Morocco, in Algeria, for 2 years. For 2 years. And in '40, when the battle was lost, they were sent back to France. He arrived in Marseille, not knowing where to go. He spoke very poorly French, and then he was arrested. Well, he went to be arrested because the law was, okay, all the Jews should go to the police, and he went. And when I said later on, why did you go? Why did you go? He said 3 reasons. First of all, it's the law. You obey the law. You risk something, you go. Second of all, you know, I was proud to be a Jew. I mean, I was not ashamed, so I didn't see a reason not to go. And third, I didn't know what would happen. They had no, at that time, in '42, they had no idea in France. He went. And he was clever, and he was somebody who was reading the papers all the time. He was very aware. And actually, he was very aware during the war. That's why they escaped. Normally, he would have been killed. I mean, he would have been. I wouldn't be here.
Time for one more question. Yes.
From where did you get the idea for a ring?
The ring? Well, my mother gave me a ring one day. I don't know where this ring comes from. I have no idea. It's a man's ring. I have it. I don't wear it because I don't wear jewels, and I just imagined that it was his. That's all.
Very subtle how you got the ring.
Well, I had shot a scene, just for last detail. I had shot a scene because I thought, oh, maybe they will wonder, when does he give him the ring, her the ring? And I did the scene. We had no time to shoot it because it was something that I was adding the previous day. You know, maybe I should write that scene. I wrote the scene very badly. I told the actor, oh, we'll do that scene behind the bus. When he gets in, there's a scene. I didn't even put in the bonus in the DVD. You know, because it was not a good scene, and so I dropped it. And I don't think it's necessary. You know, we understand, we imagine. Okay. Well, thank you very, very, very much.